Senior housing in India is a very high potential segment. A report by PhD Chamber of Commerce says that by 2030, the size of the senior housing market in India would be 7.7 billion US dollars. In reality, senior housing in India is still at a very nascent stage. There are only a handful full of developers who are operating into this segment. The first and the foremost, why senior housing has not picked up in this part of the world is perception issue. The Indian society by and large still looks senior housing as old age homes meant for those who have been abandoned by their families. That is one of the reasons that senior housing has not grown beyond a select few cities, beyond a select metro cities. Only few developers have expertise in this segment. And the reasons why many developers are not coming into this segment is not just acceptance, but also the high cost of land. There is no incentive to get into this segment of housing. And because of the higher land cost, added with the fact that affordability is also an issue, most of the senior housing projects are on the periphery locations, outskirts of the city. That also defeats the purpose of senior housing in many cases because in those locations, the medical facilities are not as good as in the main city. The developers operating in senior housing would like us to believe that they go for periphery locations because in those locations they can give more open spaces to senior citizens. But the fact of the matter is that the high cost of land is driving them into those locations. Government incentive is non-existent in this segment of housing. It's not that the seniors today, the senior citizens today don't want to live independently. A survey by Track to Realty finds that 8 out of 10 senior citizens want to live independent. They don't want to live with their children. That sense of independence apart, when we ask them, would they go for senior housing? Half of them said they would prefer to live in the main city in the high rise buildings, but not in the projects exclusively meant for senior citizens. Perception issue again comes into the play. When we look at the demographic profile, most of the people who are globally exposed, who have either themselves lived abroad or their children are NRIs, they have more acceptance for the senior housing. In terms of the geographical location, West and South market has accepted senior living more than the North Indian market. Around two-thirds of senior housing projects are in Western zone and Southern India. What is needed to make senior housing a very attractive zone, turn potential of senior housing into performance is first and foremost policies to incentivize investment in this segment of society, incentivize investment into this segment for uh, private players to pump in money to create more senior housing stocks. Over and above that, social conditioning is needed. What actually is needed is to make people understand that how independent senior living worldwide has been a success story, how it has been a better lifestyle choice than a compulsion. As I said, there are only a handful of players who have gone into seniors housing and made a mark for themselves. At Track to Realty Brand X report, we have found 10 players who have met the best of senior housing, and they are starting from Asiana Housing to Antara. Number three is Kovai Property. Number four is Brigade. Paranjpe schemes stand at number five. Then there is Silver Glades, Vedanta Senior Living, the Golden Estate, Rakindo, and at number 10 is Adani Real Estate. Barring these 10, 12 players, today most of the developers neither have the skill set to get into senior housing, nor there is any incentive to get into senior housing, nor there is any investment into this segment. This is time when we as a society need to create awareness about senior housing, independent living for the elderly people, and not look at senior housing as an old age home.